You made a very bold decision about 18 months ago, 2 years, in the height of COVID, to get this building. Now, I touched on it with Richard, and I mentioned it to you outside. There's one thing having a plan of having a great building, and you've got a great building. You know, for the listeners out there, you know, it's one of the best offices I've been in. It's absolutely fantastic. But once you start that, it must be quite terrifying by thinking everything in here is perfect. I'm not going to. I said this to Richard. I'm not going to be so crass to ask how much it costs, but it must have cost an absolute bomb. But the finishings of it. So tell me about that project, because you were in Watford and then you made a bold change to think we're going and we're going to have our own building.
So we exchanged contracts on this building a week into lockdown 1.
Oh,
I'm not going to. This is we actually, because I remembered it, because obviously everything was so quiet at that point. There were 3 of us in the office because we just had to sign. We had to physically sign the paperwork. That was the only way we could do it. I remember walking out of that saying, "See you in a couple of weeks." You know, we knew it was lockdown, but that was the expectation. You know, kind of then in terms of what it became. So we knew we wanted to grow. We needed more space and things like that. You know, that was there. But of course, lockdown really changed that in terms of, you know, what it looked like. I think I referenced earlier what we wanted, what we realised we wanted, but this really exacerbated the feeling around what we wanted, is we wanted home. We wanted a place that people wanted to come into, that it would, people could feel comfortable, and then they could collaborate, and then, you know, it's a space and we could use it for events and use it for all these things. So in a lot of respects, we were fortunate with the timing in terms of what we were able to do, because we had a better idea of what was going on. But we were committed to it. We wanted it to be one of those things, and we talk about building CAE, right? And we've touched on this for the long term. Well, a building's one of the ways in which we can demonstrate that. You know, it's actually a space that people come in and go, we get CAE coming into this space. People want to be in it. And that's and you can't do that. You can't go half measures around something like that. Every bit of it, you want to think about the experience people are going to have within the building. So as we were committed to it, irrespective of everything else that was going on, that was a moment in time. This is for the long term. And there's a big difference there in terms of just the thinking process we go through. So you stop thinking about what it's costing at that point and remember what it's for. It's home.
A subject I get asked a lot by people is the importance of teamwork, specifically the benefits of people working together and face-to-face. Now, you've created an office that is fantastic. There's breakout areas, there's little collaboration areas, there's little hubs, little communities, etc., etc. We're in the library for everyone that's listening at the moment. But I'm also hearing about candidates and companies having concerns about the mental health and well-being of their people from home, feeling isolated, struggling, etc. I guess a balance has got to be struck. I wanted to ask, what's your experience of that? Because you've created an environment that most people can only dream of. But if it was my environment, I'd want everyone here all the time. How do you balance that? Because you'd have been rammed yesterday and there's not many people in there today. So how do you balance that, Justin?
I think I accept what different days are and how different people are at this point. So you're absolutely right. Yesterday was rammed in here and it said, Fridays are quiet in the office. But if you want a quiet day in the office to get something brilliant, you've got Fridays. Well, if that's what Fridays are, if that's what the business needs from a Friday, then fine. Then that's what Fridays are. We can embrace that. For me personally, I love being in the office. I hated working from home. That is not a good place for me, because I get to think, I get to share ideas. I need to be with people to be able to, get those thoughts out and understand what's going on in the business and things like that. I know I don't operate very well, at home at a desk, kind of doing like that. I really struggled with that. So I love being in the office and being in that environment. But I know everyone isn't me. For some people, actually, they really flourished at home. There are all kinds of things. I thought, God, are we going to be able to do that from home? And actually the answer has been yes. So I think, like a lot of people, having to go through it and going through that, do we put strict policies in? Do we try and enforce it? And think, and being through all those thoughts and all those ideas and things like that, and actually realising people are at their best when they're comfortable. When they're engaged in what they do, but people feeling comfortable is really important. So I think we've been able to find a natural balance and not get caught up sometimes with that person's doing that and that person's doing that. You know what? It's what works for them. And in the meantime, realising there are different structures you have to put in the background. So we have something called Wellness Wednesdays. They started during that lockdown period of it being a space that people could congregate in just to talk about lots of different aspects of wellness, actually, and for us to make sure that it gave people that space. And we still do them, we still have it now. So it's thinking about all that. There's no right answer to it. Different businesses are going to do it in different ways. I don't think we do it right and somebody else does it wrong. We just end up doing what we're doing to support the people in the best way.
I know you're passionate about creating a positive and diverse and inclusive culture here at CAE. In fact, you're the first business I'm aware of that actually has a cultural director, which are in Agri. So my question is, what is the secret? What's the secret in creating a successful culture in your opinion?
Wow, now there's a great question. We've got 3 hours, right, to talk about.
I said you couldn't prep. That's what. For the listeners out there, he's not allowed to prep for these questions.
No, and I'm not. So first, I believe that. By the way, I think culture's top down, and I know not everybody will agree with that, but for me, culture is a top down thing, and part of the reason I say that is it's got to mean something. It's absolutely got to mean something. Our purpose is a culture-driven purpose. It's not something that we just talk about. It's something that you've got to live in terms of what's... And that's hard because trying to get, a growing number of people really bought into that takes a huge amount of time and takes a huge amount of effort. I can't stand up once a year and go, hey, look, everybody, culture's really important. And then we all go off and do our thing and never think about it again. We think about it every single day. It's got to be embedded at that, at that kind of level, and it gets tested all the time. And sometimes you've got to realise what good culture isn't, and be able to call that out and go through that piece. Culture isn't about right or wrong. Our culture isn't right and other people's is wrong. That's not what it is. But it is about strength. It's a strength of culture that's really important because it's going to get tested. It's going to get tested all the time. As you grow, it's going to get tested. People will come into the business and test it. So it's actually strength. It's that depth that you've got to be able to believe, because they said it's a weak culture that will fall apart, that doesn't actually kind of mean anything. We may differ in terms of what we think a culture may be and what's right, because what's right for your business won't be right for ours necessarily. If you want to build an evil corporation, but build it with a strong culture so it means something. You can respect that more than a weak culture that the moment something comes up, you default to actually, it's all very well talking about people and wanting to set out and do things in a certain way. Oh, but there's an extra £1 of profit that we could have over there if we forget about it. So should we just ignore that for a minute and take the extra £1? No. Absolutely not. You've got to live it.